Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's 5 o'clock session of Wanderlust Wednesdays. I hope many of you know that Wanderlust Wednesdays is our version of a study abroad fair in the socially distanced COVID environment that we're finding ourselves in now. Each Wednesday we have various sessions. Earlier today we talked with Linda Darty, the director of our ECU Tuscany program. This evening at 7 o'clock we have our Cooking with Nicole program, where she'll provide a demonstration of cooking spaghetti frittata. But for the 5 o'clock session, we have a few programs that we'd like to cover with you. Before I turn it over to our presenters for tonight, one of which will be Tasha Owens, who will be taking a group of students to the Czech Republic this summer, and I'm very interested in finding out more about her program. And also Aaron Taylor will be discussing some of our other opportunities in the region in kind of Central and Eastern Europe. But before I turn it over, I just wanted to mention, as I have as a disclaimer for all of our sessions that we've done, that the current time our study abroad programs are on pause, and we're hoping that soon, perhaps in the spring, but more than likely, definitely, we're hoping at least for the summer, that we'll be running programs again. Our priority is the safety and security of our students, and we'll be following all state and federal guidelines in terms of when we're allowed to send students abroad. So we're always keeping that in mind. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Tasha, who will talk a little bit about her program to Czech Republic this summer.
Okay, this is actually, you'll get to see some snapshots of our trip the first time, which is the first time that we went through this program, which turned out to be a fantastic experience. So you'll see that I have 5 students, but then they're also accompanied with some younger students who serve as our translators in the Czech Republic. So we went to Prague, Czech Republic, which is about 2 million people, so it's a pretty large city. They do speak Czech, but a very good bit of them speak English in closer to the city. So you do have access to English, but we can get around with minimal Czech, I know some Czech, to get us to and from. So I actually have, I always say, boots on the ground. So I have close contacts in the Czech Republic who actually worked in the travel industry, working with the study abroad programming. So, and it just happened to be that that was something I ended up doing, but she has a lot of knowledge about Prague. She does a lot of discussion with students about her culture and the history of what it looked like with her growing up in a communistic era and then shifting to the socialist economy that they have now, and what that looked like. And then as a foreign exchange student who lived with me when I was in high school. And since then, which was longer ago than I like to admit, we have maintained this really cool friendship. She's more of a sister to me. So when I joined ECU, one of the things that piqued my interest was that they have this commitment to international experiences for students. And I know that has made a huge impact on me as a teacher and as somebody who gets to see the world from a different lens. So I wanted to make sure that I provided that same experience for my students. So the basics of this program is it's 3 weeks, and I chose 3 weeks because when you get there, it takes about 3-ish days to kind of settle in, get used to the time difference. They're 6 hours ahead, and really learn the metro system. You're fully reliant upon the metro system, and I give you a tour of how to get to certain places and really kind of adjusting to where you're going to be staying, where where you'll be living and getting adjusted. And then we start doing planning and meeting with the people that we'll be doing some projects with. And we actually do some teaching in the schools there. This trip will have 2 opportunities for different placements. So, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So you'll get to spend some time with me. It'll depend on how many students that we have that come. The last trip, I actually stayed in a different location than the students, but it ended up being a good thing because it lowered the cost of the trip. That was my goal, was to make this as low cost as possible so that more students could go and that the funding wasn't the barrier between them and this incredible experience. So I did stay with my friend, but I was able to be with my students most of the time. I mostly just slept there. There's a ton of hands-on experiences with a variety of students. So we have over the years, I have built a really strong relationship with the Ministry of Education there. I'm actually doing some research there. I'm working with positive behavior supports and implementation with some other colleagues here in the US. And how do we get that established in Central Europe and in other places in Europe? And my focus is obviously the Czech Republic. There are opportunities to work in a school. It's very different than we have here, but the school there that we have an opportunity for our students to engage with the students there is for students who are physically disabled. They may not have an intellectual disability, but they have a physical impairment of some sort. We don't have those sorts of placements here in the US. We would never really have that exclusionary piece. So it's different for us, but it's a really great experience getting to know the students and how that works and how do they get around in a city that's not ADA friendly. It's still about 30% not accessible for individuals who have physical impairments. So just talking to them about that. But then we also have another school for students who have more mild disabilities. And we go in and we work with students there who have very strong English skills, and they serve as our translators. So it's twofold. They get to practice their English skills, and we get to use their services as translators, and it's pretty phenomenal how that works out for them. And it's actually a privilege that they earn all year to become a translator. So, and any education major is welcome to come, and any related major. I had some school psychology folks who were interested last year who were planning on coming. I had a psychology major who is now working toward her board certified behavior analyst certification. So anything that really relates to the social sciences, you will be doing some educational practicum type work, but I can be flexible and try to make it work for you to make it meaningful. And the application does include an interview with me. Next slide. So the very first, so the second week actually is you observe 1 week and then you teach the next. So we are in the schools from 8 to 2, 3 days a week, and we eat lunch with them. We get to build these really cool relationships with these translators and the administrators at the school. We also visit the School for the Blind and the School for the Deaf. If that's a choice of a placement that you would like to look at, then we can certainly look at that. Those have not been pre-set up, but like I said, I do have some pretty strong relationships with the ministry there. You do prepare the lessons in English. Of course, they're learning English, so you'll be used a lot for those conversational skills, and you'll prepare 6 to 8 lessons. So my students thought that it was a really great way for them to prepare for student teaching because they had to really think outside of the box and be really explicit in their instruction and then modify it to whatever needs existed. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in addition to our time in the schools, we go to Terezín, which is a former concentration camp in the Czech Republic. We do a walking tour of Prague. I already mentioned the School for the Blind, the School for the Deaf. We also go to an Applied Behavior Analysis Therapy Center. So looking at what that looks like in the country context. We meet with the Ministry of Education, the special pedagogy faculty. So that's basically their special education leadership within the country. And we are in a lot of discussions about how do we further positive behavior supports in country and facilitate a lot of inclusion. We also interact with the Charles University Special Pedagogy program. So we work with their students and we have an interview session where we get to talk to them about what their programming looks like, and they get to ask us questions about our programming. And then I leave the weekends open for students to explore. And most of the time they will find something to do locally. There's a million things to do, very easily accessible in Prague. You can see Old Town Square is with the castle looking building. The center picture at the bottom is the school for the students who were physically impaired. We actually prepared a meal. We did mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese, and burgers, and shared, I think, Coke with them. And they made a meal for us, a traditional Czech meal. So it was a nice cultural exchange, and a lot of great conversation happened there. And the school actually got us a private tour with the the government. So we were able to go in and, the parliament. So we were able to take a private tour, have some conversations with people who are doing some great things, ask our questions, and actually stand on the parliament floor and see what that was like from a different standpoint in the government center. Next slide. So there is coursework because this is tied to a course. Of course, it can be taken as an elective. It does count toward degrees if you're in the education program. There's a pre-post survey just looking at growth and expectations and so on. There's a question and meeting preparation, so asking the students and faculty there at the school how to prepare for serving their students best. There's lots of reflections, activity and lesson planning that actually was a bit more extensive than we thought. So we'll be doing some of that ahead of time now that we know the context quite a bit better. And then there will be a presentation. And so we present positive behavior supports, or whatever the topic is of that they've asked us to present, which will be probably positive behavior supports as well. We'll be presenting that to the Ministry of Education and to several entities. We actually had a request by the Prime Minister for me to be in touch with some specific people within the Charles University to talk about positive behavior supports, because they're very interested in it. He just reached out to me while I was there. So my students got some really neat hands-on experiences. And then we do some pre-trip meetings, which will count as part of the coursework, where you can more implement the things that we've planned while we're there. So you're spending more time actually involving yourself in the experience. Next slide. Is that the last one? That might be it. Oh, okay. So the estimated cost is about $4,900, and that includes pretty much everything, including food and 2 excursions, including the Prague walking tour, and then Terezín, which includes the transfer back and forth to the airport and to Terezín, which is about an hour away. That also includes a translator. We have a private translator that will be working with us there. He's actually become a friend since going. His name is Eric, and he does a phenomenal job with helping us with just the logistics of getting to and from. And he's a very good liaison between us and the schools. You will have to get your passport, and then it doesn't include spending money or any additional excursions that you might want to do, or alcohol. And then that also includes your tuition, which is really important to note that it is, you can get the 3 credits for this course. Next slide. Okay, so if you want more information, you can feel free to get in touch with me. I love to talk about it. I'm going to be doing some information sessions about where we actually stay, what it looks like. The place where the students stay is a really great place. They loved it. It was one of the highlights of their trip. It's right in downtown Prague, actually, very safe. Prague, or the Czech Republic, is actually considered the 7th safest country in the world. So parents who are sending their students in amongst all the COVID and all the things that we're dealing with now, it's good to know that you're sending your students to a very safe place where I actually have a lot of personal contacts in the country who can help us at any given time. So feel free to reach out and ask any questions that you might have. And please, if you are interested, take a look at those scholarships. A lot of my students got the scholarships, the Rivers Scholarship. Hopefully that'll still be available. I think 3 of my students were awarded that, which helped offset that cost quite a bit. So that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Owens. We do have a couple of questions that have come through for you. And
Sure.
Before I start with the first one, I just wanted to state the Rivers Scholarship will be available for next summer. So it'll open soon in November with a deadline in January.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first question is, what kinds of questions are asked during the interview?
So it's basically usually if you're a student in my program, and I know you pretty well, they're just more questions about, have you traveled abroad? What experiences do you have? It's really for me to get to know you better as a traveler, as a team player. When we go, I need team players. It can't be one of these situations where we are not prepared the next day for school. And that is probably the biggest thing, is for me to make sure that it's understood that we are representing ECU, and not only ECU, but the United States. They take these partnerships very seriously. And so I want really some maturity. I'm looking for some maturity. So, and it's unless I have a bunch of applicants, it's usually me who goes. So I also need to make sure that I'm going to be able to support you with just me as the faculty.
Thank you. Are students able to stay in Europe beyond the program dates, and how would that affect program cost?
So I guess that might be a question more for you, Whitney. There's always potential for staying after. I don't know exactly what those parameters are according to ECU policies. There's a potential that I may be staying and doing some work in country. It just depends on logistics and who we have going and things like that. But if you do choose to do that, I can certainly help you set up the accommodations. Meet Me 23 is where the students stay. It's actually a very good option it's a hostel style hotel, but it's not what you would think of as a hostel at all. So, and we've already got access to refrigerators and things like that can be moved into the room so that students have access to like refrigeration and things for longer stays.
And I would add in, if a student does decide to stay on beyond the program dates, that is allowed. After the program ends, students are no longer considered on the program anymore, so they're able to return to the US or stay in Europe as they wish. They will need to look up any visa requirements for countries that they're going to be going to. Typically in Europe, American citizens can travel for up to 90 days, and your program is 3 weeks, so that is still plenty of time to travel a little bit. And since your program does include airfare, we might have a discussion with you if you decide to extend your stay on taking the airfare out of the program cost, and then you would book your airfare on your own. Okay, and the final question we have for you, Dr. Owens, how much should students budget for meals not included on the program?
So that actually includes a budget for meals. I've done a budget where I give students $400 to cover their lunch and dinner, and eating in the Czech Republic is extremely cheap. So I was very cautious with my students the last trip, and I asked them multiple times, like, do you have enough money? Is it covering? So it is definitely enough to cover it. Where they ran into issues was when they would buy, the 5-star meals from, the steak, or they would spend it on alcohol, which doesn't count. So we had to be really clear that, and I typically at the very beginning of the trip, I give you that money. It's just I budget it ahead of time. When we get to the Czech Republic, I transfer that to you so that you can have that The last time we actually did it through Venmo, it made it a lot easier for my students, so they didn't have to have it on hand. And then it helped with the conversion of the funds from the American money, US dollars, to the Karuna. So that helped them, and they didn't have to worry about holding on to all the cash or withdrawing money.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Owens. And
Sure.
we'll be going on now to speak about exchange and semester and non-faculty-led programs. And to do that, we'll be hearing from ECU's Education Abroad Advisor, Erin Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And Whitney already did a great introduction, but I do want to go over a few of the exchange, semester, and non-faculty-led options that you do have to study abroad in Central and Eastern Europe. We have two types of exchange programs. The first is a bilateral exchange, and the second is through the International Student Exchange Program, or ISEP. Both of these allow you to pay your same ECU tuition and fees directly to ECU, and they are available during the fall and spring semesters, as well as for a full academic year. Some summer programs are available through ISEP, and ISEP also offers a direct option, which is where you pay a direct fee to ISEP, and it's a set program cost that may be less than your tuition here, especially if you are an ECU or an out-of-state student. But do keep in mind that that cost does vary based on program and location. We have a few minimum eligibility requirements that I want to go through with you. In order to study abroad, you do have to have a 2.5 GPA. However, you may find a few competitive programs that do ask for a higher GPA. Students have to be in good academic and disciplinary standing, and you do have to have completed 24 credit hours prior to the start of your program. So by the time you finished your freshman year, you will have fulfilled that requirement. Finally, you do want to be aware of any other program-specific requirements that will be listed on your program's webpage. Bilateral exchanges are the least competitive options for ECU students because we have direct relationships with these universities abroad. You would only be applying and competing against other ECU students. And here you would pay your same ECU tuition and fees directly to ECU, and your housing and meals would be paid in your host country. Grades are pass-fail, so they transfer in as pass-fail. You would not receive a letter grade, and it would not impact your GPA. And on an exchange, you do still have access to your normal ECU financial aid, and you have the ability to apply for additional scholarships through ECU or on the national level. Placement at bilateral exchanges is guaranteed as long as you do meet those minimum eligibility requirements. And in Central and Eastern Europe, we have about 8 bilateral options. The first is Haan University in the Netherlands, which is a great opportunity for public health, sports nutrition, and social work majors. And instead of registering for individual classes, you would have a prescribed course schedule for the time that you were there. They have 2 campuses, and you would also earn a certificate upon completion in addition to the grades transferring back to ECU. And the classes would be taught in English. In Poland, we have Krosno State College as well, and most classes are taught in Polish, but there are some offered in English, especially through the English department. And for this program, you would live on campus. Linnaeus University in Sweden also has 2 campuses and offers multiple disciplines, so this is a great opportunity for a variety of majors. They operate on a block scheduling model, so instead of taking all of your classes at one time throughout the semester, you would focus on one class at a time, and these would be taught in English. Mykolas Romeris University in Lithuania offers multiple disciplines including economics, finance, business studies, law, math, humanities, and more. And most of these are taught in English as well, but some would be in Lithuanian. Örebro University in Sweden has undergraduate and graduate options as well in a number of fields, including humanities, law, social sciences, technology, healthcare, music, and more. And they also operate on a block scheduling model. So again, that just means instead of taking all of your classes at one time throughout the semester, you would take them individually and focus on them one at a time. And these would also be taught in English. We have 2 programs available in Finland. The first is at the University of Lapland, where you can earn 15 ECU credits per semester in multiple disciplines such as education, law, art and design, political studies, and more. And these are also taught in Finnish and English. The second option is the University of Oulu, which has multiple disciplines. So again, it's a great option for various majors, and those would be taught in English. And our final bilateral exchange is in Poland with the University of Wrocław, where they have 70 areas of study, including history, social sciences, administration, computer science, chemistry, and more. And these would be taught in English and Polish. And so one thing I do want to bring to your attention is, as you can tell, we have a lot of programs that offer English language classes. So you do not have to be studying another language in order to study abroad. The second type of international exchange program that we offer is through the International Student Exchange Program, or ISEP. These are slightly more competitive than our bilateral exchanges because they are open to international students all around the world. So you would be competing with students from everywhere. Don't let that deter you though, because they have a high placement rate, a high chance of placement at your top 3 program choices, and they offer the most program options and locations. On an ISEP exchange, you still have access to your normal ECU financial aid and the ability to apply for additional scholarships, not only through ECU and on the national level, but through ISEP as well. And your grades would transfer in as pass-fail. So again, you would not receive a letter grade and it would not impact your GPA. ISEP offers some summer programs in this region in a few countries such as Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Finland, Greece, and Italy. And you can also see a list of 15 countries in Central and Eastern Europe where they have the regular fall and spring and academic year programs available. And I did want to mention one of our consortium programs in Switzerland. It's Caesar Ritz Colleges, which is a great opportunity for hospitality management students, and they also offer limited options within business. They have 4 11-week semesters per year on 3 campuses, and they also offer a paid internship opportunity if you participate in 2 semesters back-to-back. This internship would be for 6 months in a hotel either in Switzerland or another country in Europe. And depending on the location of your internship, some previous language experience may be required. And so that was just a general overview of some of the programming available in Central and Eastern Europe. And I want to thank you guys for joining us today. If you do have any questions about the programs mentioned, please feel free to reach out to studyabroad@ecu.edu or visit our website to browse the programs, piratesabroad.ecu.edu. We also have a few other activities coming up. Again, we mentioned earlier, we're having a Italian cooking class this evening at 7, where you can learn how to make spaghetti frittata. And the ingredients are also listed on our website, which is globalaffairs.ecu.edu/fair.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you at 7.